The wedding of former first daughter Chelsea Clinton and investment banker Mark Mizvinsky has an added factor of interest. She is Methodist, he is Jewish. About 2 decades ago, 15% of U.S. households were mixed faith. 4 years ago, the number was up to 25% and growing steadily. Joining us now is life coach and dating expert Donna Barnes. Good morning.
Good morning.
So if they were to come to you, to knock on your door and say, give us some advice, just off the bat, how best to make this work, what would you tell them?
First and foremost, I think keep respect for each other and what's important to each other, and not really try to change the other person in a way that they're not open to.
Right.
But having an open mind and being willing to change is always good within a relationship.
In order to make something like this work, does it not take an extraordinary amount of maturity?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it has to be not about just getting your way. I think we're all used to having it our way and what we want.
Right.
But then when you're in love with another person and you're forming a union,
right,
it has to be about what you both want and what compromise works for both of you.
Yeah. Assume both people go into this thing and saying, I am going to retain my Christianity and my Methodism. I am going to retain my Jewishness. How then do you go about planning a family, dealing with, the mundane things like family holidays, all of that stuff like that? It may not be part of your everyday life right now, but it sure will loom large in the not too distant future.
Right, exactly. And I think, unfortunately, what ends up tearing these couples apart sometimes is when they get into having children, then feelings come up for them that they didn't expect. You know, if they were christened or baptized at a young age, and then now their partner's saying, no, 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 we can't do that.
Yes.
And you start feeling, wow, what if my child then isn't going to be accepted into heaven, or whatever it is that you might feel, then it might be more important to you than you realize.
And you have to assume these people they're smart people, they've been around the block a couple of times, they're not the 19-year-old kids.
Right.
But this is such an important conversation to have ahead of time to say, this is what my expectations are, because once you get in the marriage, it's a little too late to be, negotiating this stuff.
And absolutely. Failed expectations, I think, is one of the biggest faults of a marriage anyway. It's one of the biggest reasons it fall apart. You know, everybody thinks, like, oh, we love each other, we'll get married, we'll live happily ever after.
We can make it work out.
Without having that really important conversation about, okay, well, how do we raise the kids? And exactly, if we convert to one or the other, then our whole family's not converting. So then what do we do at holidays?
Sure.
You know, if we become Jewish, do we celebrate Christmas with my family?
Right. Well, and then there's the expectation of the in-laws and the grandparents, right? Because then you're sitting there and there's somebody saying, I can't believe she's not doing X, or I can't believe they're not doing Y. They're not going to, they're not going to come to the candlelight service this year, right?
And they possibly might not respect your decision, which then could make it more difficult. You know, if you're going to commit, if you're going to convert, then you really have to have your whole family on board and supporting you in that, so that they're not going to violate your boundary of, okay, now I'm this faith.
Because we're not suggesting either one is going to convert, but if one we're going to decide that, you really then do need the support of the rest of your family, because then otherwise you may be rejecting them in a whole other way.
Exactly, yeah. And it can work if you don't convert. And, really having an open mind and being open to learning new things, I think it should be one of the things that's standard in life anyway. So how wonderful to be a child who's exposed to both, and to be taught a little bit of the Jewish religion, a little bit of the Methodist religion, and grow up really with a knowledge, and then hopefully not a bias against
the other ones, yeah. Now here's the question: if they came to you and they said, we're thinking of converting, would you tell them it's a good idea or a bad idea?
Well, that's really up to them to decide. But I would help them walk through all the pros and cons, really, of both sides. And there are pros and cons to both sides. And I guess it really comes down to how strong is your faith to start with. If you're really steadfast in the way that you were raised, and that's what you believe. Commonality is a big part of relationships. Your values and your core beliefs really have to match. So if it's going to be on something as hot charged as religion, then you really need to be able to agree to disagree and stay with that if you're going to make it work.
Respect, and especially respect the other persons.
Absolutely.
There you go. Donna Barnes, thank you very much.
Thank you.